Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Vrinda Devi Jaya, Tulsi Maharani Jaya, Vrinda Devi.
You. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janabalaba Giribara Date Gopi Janabalaba Giribara Date Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tera Manachare Yamuna Tera Panachate Jayarandhu Madhava Kunda Vikhate Jayarandhu Madhava Kunda Vikhate Gopi Janabalaba Iri Balatare Gopi Janabalaba Giribadodhate Yasodanandana Prajajanu Ranjana Yasodanandana Prajajanu Ranjana Jamuna Tera Banachate Yamuna Tera Banachate Jayarandho Madhava Kunda Vikhate Jayarandha Madhava Kunda Vikhate Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Paravidacharya also Teta Satashi Shimad Divine Grace Abhaya Chalanada Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadha Shivasita Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopinath Sayam Mukunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai Vrindavanam Ki Jai Maturanam Ki Jai Jagadada Swami Ki Jai Yamunamai Ki Jai Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai Samveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Om. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is the assembled devotees. All glory is to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivasesa Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatani. We are reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto, 53rd chapter, text 44. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Asadja Devi Saranam Dauta Pada Karambuja Upasprasya Shuchi Shanta Pravivesham Vikantikam Asajja Devi Sadanahum Dota Pada Karambuja Upasprasya Shuchi Shanta Pravivesham Vikantikam Asajja Devi Sadanam Dota Pada Karambuja Upasprasya Shuchi Shanta Pravivesham Vikantikam Asajja Devi Sadanam Dota Pada Karambuja Upasprasya Shuchi Shanta Pravivesham Vikantikam. Vesham Vikantikam. Okay. Asajja Devi Saranam Uttapada Karambuja Sprisha Shuchi Shanta Pravivesham Vikantikam. Okay. Asajja, reaching, Devi of the goddess, Saranam, the residence, Dota, washing, Pada, her feet, Kara, and hands, Ambuja, lotus-like, Upasprasya, sipping water for purification, Shuchi, sanctified, Shanta, peaceful, Pravivesha, she entered, Ambika Antikam, the presence of Ambika. Translation: upon reaching the goddess's temple, Rukmini first washed her lotus feet and hands and then sipped water for purification. Thus sanctified and peaceful, she came into the presence of Mother Ambika. So you can repeat. Upon reaching the goddess's temple, Rukmini first washed her lotus feet and hands, and then sipped water for purification. Thus sanctified and peaceful, she came into the presence of Mother Ambika. So there's no purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada, for this particular verse, but there are certain commentaries by the Acharyas. And then we're going to go on to the next verse. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur comments that Rukmini performing Achaman Upasprisha entered the inner sanctum Devi or Deva Sadanam. The masculine is sometimes used for female deities in their sanctum, just as masculine is used for female animals while they are in the egg or womb. Little interesting Sanskrit information there. And then Jiva Goswami comments that 6 verses describe Rukmini's devotion to Durga. She arrived at Durga's temple, Deva Sadanam. The masculine Deva is used since Shiva and others were also situated in the temple, or since the masculine is used again for words like eggs of the hen, even though so many of the eggs may be female chicks. Her mind was controlled. And finally, Sanatana Goswami states, she reached the temple of Durga, Deva Sadanam. Another version as Devya Shanta means her mind was controlled. Actually, a few words about this, and then we'll go on to the next verse. Om Gana Timiranda Shah Gananjana Shlakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shigarve Namaha Asajadeva Sadanam Dauta Pada Karambuja Upasprisha Shuchi Shanta Prabhive Sham Vikantikam. So it's very important when entering a sacred place to make sure that you are clean, dressed cleanly, and dressed respectfully. This is very, very important. And, of course, they hear the word achman is used, or sipping the water, which is achman. So that's generally done before one puts on tilak or enters or does a particular ceremony. So let's go on to the next verse. Tamvai pravaya sopalam vidigya viprayoshita bhavanim vandiham chakrur bhavapatnim bhavan vitam. The older wives of Brahmanas, expert in the knowledge of rituals, led young Rukmini in offering respects to Bhavani, who appeared with her consort, Lord Bhava. So purport by the followers of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. According to the Acharyas, here the term Bhavan Vitam indicates that in the Ambika temple visited by Rukmini, the presiding deity was the goddess, whose husband appeared in an accompanying role. Thus, the ritual was properly performed by women. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti comments that the term vidigna may be understood to mean that since the learned wives of Brahmanas knew of Rukmini's desire to marry Krishna, the verb avandhyam chokru thus indicates that they prompted her to pray for what she really wanted. In this way, like the goddess Bhavani, Rukmini could be united with her eternal male companion. And there's some commentaries here, which we will read. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, the aged wives of the priests, knowing the rule of Scripture and also the mind of Rukmini, had her worship Durga along with Shiva. O Durga, just you are the wife of Shiva, and join with him. Make Rukmini, the wife of Krishna, join with him. Having seen Krishna, they prayed in the same way as the citizens had previously. May our pious acts be given to her. Now, also a commentary by Jiva Goswami. The words Bhavanim and Bhava Patnim indicate that Durga was Shiva's assistant in fulfilling desires, bhava, worldly desires, and in fulfilling dharma, bhava, it means excellence. In fulfilling desires, she arranges for women to marry men. In relation to fulfilling dharma, she helps in sacrifices. The words show her intimate relationship with the great devotee, Shiva. Rukmini was made to offer respects to chaste Durga associated with Shiva. The elderly women also taught her the mantra in the next verse. They had realized the mantra. Finally, Sanatana Goswami. Bhavani refers to Parvati. That means the daughter of the mountain, basically, which is another appearance of Durga. They had Rukmini offer respects to Bhava Patnim, wife of Shiva, with devotion, Bhavan Vitam. By offering respects to her, offering respects to Shiva was also accomplished, or she worshipped her in order to gain similar chastity and good fortune. So again, Om Gana Tivdanda Shah, Gananjana Shlakya Chakshur, Un Militam Yena Tasmai Shigurveda Maha. So it's very interesting how Lord Shiva is referred to as Bhava here. And Durga is referred to as Bhavani. So this word Bhava, actually I got this from listening to Rita Nadamar's class, comes from the root of to be. You know the word to be? To be. To be or not to be, that is the question. So to be, and then also you have another word about the future, which means bhavishyati, it will be. Just like the Bhavishya Purana, which some people say is a more recent addition. It is actually not. Anyway, that's another issue. That means that describing things that will happen. So what does that mean to describe Lord Shiva as Bhava? Or basically, that means in the material world, things come into being, right? And they're maintained for some time. And then what happens at the end? They're finished. Just like you have the 6 changes that all of us are undergoing, which I am very upset about right now. Not all 6 of them I'm not upset about. I'm upset about the dwindling one. You know, you have the 6 changes. This is all bhava, material existence. 6 changes means you're born, you grow up, you maintain yourself, you have byproducts, a dissolution, and the other one I'm not going to mention. Anyway, so this is the material existence, and Lord Shiva is the Lord of the material existence. And Bhavani, she's the goddess of material existence. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, and Lord Vishnu, Mahavishnu, doesn't touch the material energy. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, at the time of the creation, that is the Mahavishnu, or the Karanadaksha Vishnu, he glances at the material creation, and it's described in Sanskrit, Saikshata. And that glance, because Angani Yasha Shakalen, Driya Dri Timanti, he can do anything with any of his senses, just like if I glance at someone. Sometimes you say, you know, he could burn me with his glance, but I can't really do that. So, but my glance is just that. I look, and it can be interpreted in different ways. You know, I look, just like you hear, sometimes listening to the stories that devotees tell about Prabhupada, they said, Prabhupada looked at me, and he saw into my soul. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't, but you're actually projecting your own understanding in that particular regard. But when Krishna glances, as Krishna can do with any of his senses, as we just recited this verse from the Brahma Samhita, Angani Yasha Shakalan Driyadri Timanti, Krishna can impregnate with his glance. Krishna can eat with his glance. Krishna can smell with his glance. And so when he glances Aikshata, this material creation, he manifests Bhava, that is Lord Shiva. And then Lord Shiva consorts with Bhavani to put all of us in this material world. And therefore Lord Shiva is actually our father, in one sense, or the father of this particular body. So material energy is known as bhava, and the interesting thing is if we want to get out of this material energy, then we have to take the remedy, bhavosharo, as described by Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, 10th canto, 1st chapter, text 4. Was it? Nivritta tarashar, upabhiyamanas, bhavoshara shatra, bano viramat, Kautma shloka gunanavadat Puman virajeta bana pashugnat. And actually this is the nutshell verse for the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. That if one wants to get out of this material existence, Nivritta tarshar upagyamanat bhavosharat shatra mano viramat. Ka uttama shloka gunanavada. Then one has to hear and chant about Krishna. And, of course, the last line in this verse is that people will be attracted to Krishna Katha unless they are Puman Virajeta Bana Pashugna, killers of animals or killers of the soul, so to speak. So, in other words, if one is committing vikarmic activities, then one will not be so much attracted to Krishna consciousness. So this is very, very interesting. So as far as Lord Shiva is concerned, or Bhava is concerned, he is a pure devotee of Krishna, as we know, Vaishnavanam, Yata Shambhu, and sometimes considered the greatest devotee of Lord Krishna. And he is always chanting the names of who? Lord Ram. And he initiated Durga Bhavani in the chanting of names of Lord Ram. And Bhavani later on became initiated in chanting Hare Krishna by who? Does anyone know? Who other than, who? No, she became initiated by who? Does anyone know Chaitanya Charitamrita? Not Mother Ramladona, please don't answer. So, Haridas Thakur, right? So Haridas Thakur got her chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and Lord Shiva got her chanting Lord Ram's name. So Lord Shiva is a great devotee of Lord Ram. Just like you have Rameshwaram. It can be understood two ways. That is, Rama, who worships Shiva as Ishvara, or Lord Shiva, whose Ishvara is Lord Ram. Interesting, isn't it? There's two ways to understand that verse. So, anyway, so that's the first point I wanted to talk about. The second point was sort of like a counterpoint to yesterday's class, about which I'm not disagreeing with the points in yesterday's class, that in the Vedic system, the women had all these skills. They were Brahmins, Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, Shudras. They were women fighters and everything like that. But going back 2 or 3 verses, when Leela Shakti was giving class about the protection of women, I thought it was a very important point that, yes, women can do basically everything. They're not less intelligent and academic or in a sense of skill set. So skill set, academic sense, yes. But then talking about how ladies or women or females need protection is a very important point, and that was touched upon in a previous class when we were talking about how Rukmini was protected by all these soldiers with their bows drawn and their shields or whatever, their swords up in the air. So very, very important point. And in this regard, I was actually listening that very same day to a class that Srila Prabhupada gave about this very same point. And this class was actually based upon a description in the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this particular story, the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it was a story about how Draupadi, being a lady, was soft-hearted in regard to dealing with the killer of her children. Of course, the killer of her children, that was Ashvatam. And there's one interesting verse. This is actually the verse that Prabhupada was giving a class on, and I'm going to read this verse. Tatavratam pashuvat pashabhadam avanmukam karma jagupsitena niriksha krishna pakritam gurosatam vama svabhava kripaya nanama cha. So specifically, we're talking here about the words Vama Swabhava. That means very, very soft-hearted, according to Srila Prabhupada's translation. Swabhava means nature. Vama also means beautiful, but Prabhupada translates that sometimes as soft-hearted. So let me read the translation. Sri Suta Goswami said, Draupadi then saw Ashwatthama, who was bound with ropes like an animal and silent for having enacted the most inglorious murder. Due to her female nature and due to her being naturally good and well-behaved, she showed him due respect as a brahmana. So Prabhupada explains in the purport that Ashwatthama was condemned by the Lord himself, and he was treated by Arjuna just like a culprit, not like the son of a brahmin or teacher. But when he was brought before Srimati Draupadi, she, although bereaved due to the murder of her sons, and although the murderer was present before her, could not withdraw the due respect generally offered to a Brahmin, to the son of the Brahmin. This is due to her mild nature as a woman. And the next verse, I'm just going to read the English. So she could not tolerate Ashwatthama's being bound by ropes, and being a devoted lady, she said, release him, for he is a Brahmana, our spiritual master. And so Prabhupada covers, this is just part of the purport. So here, the Pandava family, they are a very enlightened family, and still, Vama Swabhava, the woman is soft-hearted. She did not consider about Ashwatthama's position, but so far Krishna is concerned, Arjuna is concerned, they consider that he is not a Brahman, but he is a Brahma Bandhu. Brahma Bandhu means the son of a Brahmana. But behavior is something else. He is called Brahma Bandhu, and that's a 1976 class in Vrindavan. Of course, ultimately, it wasn't appropriate for him to be killed because he was the son of a Brahmin. But Draupadi still considered him to be like a spiritual master, like that. So in other words, she was very, very soft-hearted. Of course, Brahma Bandhu, of course, means the friend or the son or the relative of a Brahmin. And Prabhupada comments in this regard that one may be a relative of a high court judge, or one may be a relative of a doctor, but that doesn't make one a doctor or a high court judge. You still have to have that particular qualification or education. So the point is, this indicates that women require protection. And of course, Prabhupada talked about this, protected by son, protected by father, protected in some way or other. The ladies have to always be protected because they're very soft-hearted. They can be misled. And Prabhupada, in this regard, makes reference to stories in the Ramayana in this particular class. I found it quite interesting, insofar as Rukmini being protected too. So, and he describes that Sita, of course, being very, very soft-hearted, became attracted to, of course, we understand this is a pastime. This is not in any way casting aspersion or the judgment of Sita Devi. This is a particular pastime, and the Lord and his consort were enacting this pastime for a particular purpose, for their own enjoyment. and Purichanaya Sananam Vinashaya Chidushkritam. So Prabhupada comments that Sita Devi was begging for this golden deer. And this golden deer was obviously an illusion. I mean, Lakshman pointed this out. But she kept begging Ram for this golden deer. And this indicates her, very sentimental, soft-hearted nature that later, externally, we understand it's a pastime, but got her in trouble. And because she was unprotected, even though she was a Kshatriya, obviously, and had known the Kshatriya arts, Ravan was able to kidnap her. So obviously she wasn't really kidnapped. It was Maya Sita, but that's a different point that I don't want to make right now. So Prabhupada actually comments in this regard, and I'm not saying that we should apply this completely. He comments several times, quoting this verse, Pati Nari Vivaryaya. Does anyone know what that means? That means when one goes on pilgrimage, one shouldn't take one's wife with one. Or one goes to the forest. I'm not saying that we apply this in ISKCON. People would just get really upset with me. But Prabhupada actually said, from a particular point of view, that Rama should not have taken Sita with him into the forest. He said this in class. Don't look at me, don't blame me for this particular one. And I understand as a pastime, there's a reason he took Sita with him into the forest so that she could or Maya Sita could get kidnapped, so Ram could fight Ravana and enjoy fighting one of his Vaikuntha associates. I understand all that. That's a different level. But Prabhupada, on a particular level, Prabhupada said that he should not have taken her into the forest. It was a mistake. It's really interesting. So indicating, the gist of it is that the women need protection. Another story about women needing protection was when the Pandavas were in hiding in the kingdom of Virat, and Kichika, this wasn't due to the soft nature of Draupadi. This was due to just her not being able to fight against Kichika. Kichika wanted to basically have an arrangement or relationship with her, and she had to enlist the help of Bhimsen in order to pound Kichika into like a basketball-shaped piece of flesh. So, anyway, so these are some points that indicate the necessity of protecting the women physically, emotionally, and psychologically as part of Vedic society. I'm not going to, go all the way to certain extremes, and also allow the ladies. Part of protection is to allow the ladies to engage according to their psychophysical nature and do what they can do, whether they're managers, whether they're cooks, whether they're soldiers or whatever. But it's very important part of Vedic civilization. And Prabhupada makes this point very, very strongly in many different places. In the first canto, 8th chapter, text 5, this is not only about women. He says, in the glorious days or before the advent of the age of Kali, the brahmanas, the cows, the women, the children, and the old men were properly given protection. And Prabhupada goes through this whole list, and I'll just read about the women here. Protection of women maintains the chastity of society, by which we can get a good generation for peace, tranquility, and progress of life. So, and then modern day examples of how the ladies need to be protected is there are, I just wanted to mention this without getting into the specifics, that there are certain, quote, religious groups that use online interactions with women to draw them out of their own religion and put them in a situation where they're engaged even in assisting terrorism. Anyway, leave it at that. So even we've experienced that in our community amongst some of the children in our community, how they've been affected like that. So therefore, Vedic system, as Rukmini is being protected, of course they couldn't protect her from Krishna, but as Rukmini is being protected there, it is very important for us to institute this amongst our devotees, the Society of Devotees. So, any questions or comments we got? Yes. Mother Marilla.
This is a point that I've always found just interesting. And Prabhupada does this with Draupadi,
Yeah.
and he does it with Arjuna. So in what you quoted, first he criticizes Draupadi's soft-heartedness as being a weakness of women.
Yeah.
And then one or two purports later, I think, he says that this was due to her being a devotee.
Yeah.
And then he does the same thing with Arjuna.
With the same thing,
He says his compassion was a weakness.
Yeah.
And then in another purport in the same area, he says that this natural compassion was because of his being a devotee.
yeah.
And Prabhupada also talks about women's soft-heartedness as being an asset
Yeah, for religious ceremony.
for surrender. So I
Yeah.
wonder if you could kind of, I don't know if you have time, if you could kind of talk about like it seems like it's a double-edged sword. On the one hand, being compassionate and being soft-hearted is a liability because you can be more exploited.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, being compassionate and soft-hearted is an asset that you can more easily surrender. So I wonder if you kind of look at that, if you'd be willing to look at that.
Yeah, so the soft-heartedness, okay, is actually good. But if it isn't controlled by buddhi or intelligence, like Arjuna's feeling of reluctance to kill, his cousin brothers and his guru also, was actually good. But how it overcame his intelligence and got him to the point of saying, I'm not going to fight. That's the point. So it's a balance. We have soft-heartedness, but that soft-heartedness, emotional, whatever, has to be controlled with intelligence. And intelligence is based upon the mature discrimination of what's favorable for serving Krishna and what is unfavorable for serving Krishna. So I may have some for example, let's say, all right, so sometimes I'm walking somewhere and I see a cute little animal. And I'm thinking, maybe I should adopt an animal or adopt this poor little animal or something like that. But then through intelligence, I know it's not a good idea, Maharaj. So, the feeling of wanting to help a poor animal, or let's take Bart Maharaj. Okay, good, I went there. So let's say Bart Maharaj, his desire to help this deer, and even a certain modicum, certain amount of endeavor to help the little baby deer was appropriate. But he became overcome by his compassion. It wasn't wrong for him to feel compassionate, but he became overcome. So that's the real point. So sometimes, getting back to the woman-man dichotomy there, both women and men are sometimes overcome. Men are overcome more by their, passion, and women are overcome more by their soft-heartedness. Does that make sense? And just the example I gave about people being lured away from their culture and engaged, even in terrorist activities or assisting terrorism, was because the lack of intelligent discrimination.
How do we do this? How do we maintain our positive bhakti, soft-heartedness? How do you kind of keep those things?
The same way Arjuna did. He took advice from Krishna. He revealed his mind to Krishna. So, of course, we may not be able to hear right now what Krishna is saying, but we have Krishna's devotees in the association. Prabhupada described that if we have one stick, it can be broken. Again, that example. And if you have many sticks together, like we used to do these pickup sticks, they can't be broken. So if we associate with devotees, dadati guyam akyati prichati, we reveal our minds, then we can be saved from giving in to either with the men, the passion, confirmed, or the ladies, the soft-heartedness. Does that make sense? That's the solution. But in the meantime, it's good to have a lot of soldiers around, like Rukmini had.
Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Kamaham Bhajami Marhamatam Samasitam Buddha Sundarangam Kandar Bhagom Vidamaniya Vishesha Shobham Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Angani Yasa Sakalen Priya Priti Manti Lasyan Dipan Kayanti Chiram Naganti Ananda Chinmaya Sadhu Jala Vigrahasya Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Tamaham Bhajami.
Purusham Namaho Vishnu Pajaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Sammeliti Namene Saraswati Devi Guruvani Bacha Nivesesha Sunyavati Matsya Jagati Satarande Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Shri Advaita Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Jai Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Rama Hare, Rama, Rama Rama Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, 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 Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Jaya Raja, Lukyanana Trade. Lukyanana Trade. Rante, Rade, Rade. Jai Om.
Chaitadharpanamarjanam Bhava Mahadavagni Nirvapanam Shreya Kairavya Chandrika Vitaranam Vidyavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhi Vardhanam Pradibanam Purnamrita Swadanam Sarvatma Snapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Nam Namakari Bahuda Nija Sarva Shaktis Tatrapi Dani Amita Smarane Nakala Etadrishi Tavakripa Bhagavan Mamapi Dordaiva Midrishami Hajjani Nanuraga Trinadapi Sunichena Charorapi Suhishuna Amani Namanadena Kirtaniya Sadahari Nadanajanam Nasundarim Kavitam Vajagadisha Kamaye Mama Janmani Janmani Ishvare Bhavatad Bhaktir Ahoitaki Twai Ainanda Tanuja Kinkaram Bhatitam Mam Vishame Bhavam Buddha Kribayata Vabada Pankaja Stita Duli Sadrishim Vachintaya Nayanam Gada Shru Daraya Varanam Gad Gada Hridaya Gira Pulakarnishitam Vapukada Tavanama Grahane Bhavishyati Yugayatam Namishena Chakshusha Pravashayatam Shunayatam Jagat Sarvam Govindam Virahename Ashlishavabadam Nastumam Adarshanam Marmahata Karotuva Yatatata Vidadatulam Pato Mat Prananatastu Saeva Napara. Victory to the Sri Krishna Sankirtan, which cleanses the heart of all the dust accumulated for years and extinguishes the fire of conditional life, of repeated birth and death. This Sankirtan movement is the prime benediction for humanity at large because it spreads the rays of the benediction moon. It is the life of all transcendental knowledge. It increases the ocean of transcendental bliss and enables us to fully taste the nectar for which we are always anxious. O my Lord, congregational chanting of your holy name alone can render all benediction to living beings, and thus you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies. There are not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. O my Lord, out of kindness you enable us to easily approach you by your holy names, but I am so unfortunate that I have no attraction for them. One should chant the holy name of the Lord in a humble state of mind, thinking oneself lower than a straw in the street. One should be more tolerant than a tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, and should be ready to offer all respect to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. O Almighty Lord, I have no desire to accumulate wealth, nor do I desire beautiful women, nor do I want any number of followers. I only want your causeless devotional service, birth after birth. O Son of Maharaj Nanda Krishna, I am your eternal servitor, yet somehow or other I have fallen in the ocean of birth and death. Please be in the ocean of death and place me as one of the atoms at your lotus feet. O my Lord, then may your eyes be decorated with tears of love flowing constantly when I chant your holy name. When will my voice choke up, and when will the hairs of my body stand on end at the recitation of your name? O Govinda, feeling your separation, I am considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain, and I am feeling all vacant in the world in your absence. I know no one but Krishna is my Lord, and he shall remain so even